So the first month of the UFL season has come to pass, and this has been one of the weirder first months of the UFL over the past two or 3 years at this point. So this can be a little bit of a different way I'm handling talking about these teams during power rankings for this week as a way to kind of just cover all that has happened in the league since the games have ended. So let's waste no more time and dive right into these. Number 8 is the Birmingham Stallions, and this is a pretty good team to begin this discussion with because of just how much has really changed with Birmingham over the past few years. From a once dynasty level team and a team to really be feared across all of spring football, they are now a shell of their former selves and sit at the bottom of the league at 1-3. Despite the fact they returned a ton of key pieces from that last year's roster and from years past rosters, this is still a team that is really not finding their groove. And funnily enough, the only position group that they didn't return guys in was the running back room. And it doesn't even make sense why they didn't return any of the guys as well. CJ Marable and Ricky Person are still plenty available for teams to go sign. Teams are trying to go sign them alongside many other former UFL players, but for some reason they're being blackballed from the league. It's one of many things surrounding Birmingham and this league as a whole this year that just has not made a lot of sense. Even dating back to the offseason when Mike Rapoli tried to relocate the Stallions to Boise, there's for some reason something against the Stallions in the league this year. I'm not sure exactly what it is, at least in Mike Rapoli's regard. On top of all of this, Matt Corral has not played well this year to the point where they traded him to Orlando, the team they just got shut out by, in order to bring in Dorian Thompson-Robinson to try and shake up the offense. This was done because the quarterback they wanted to eventually be the starter and be the quarterback to start the year has not been able to join the team yet because he has not been able to get his work visa in order as he is Canadian, to the point where now he is too late into the season and he has signed with the CFL and going back there. Just all around, the Stallions have been in a very weird spot this year, and a 1-3 start of the season does not bode well for them, even with the fact that they set a record high attendance in week 4. This is still a team that's just not what it once was, and I feel bad for the fans because things are not looking good in Birmingham, despite the fact that they should be near the top of the league with all the talent they have. Number 7 is the Houston Gamblers, and this will probably be the most normal segment of this video in terms of standard power rankings, because Houston doesn't have a whole lot to talk about in terms of them. They've been a pretty inconsistent team, even after the overtime loss to Louisville last week. A large part of their issues is just inconsistent quarterback play because of quarterback injuries. It also seems like every quarterback they have on the roster is in some way a second half quarterback, and they're going to have to play first half of games at some point. They've been a really bad first half team this year. Hunter Deckers was the only quarterback that seemingly can have a really good first half going, and he got hurt in that first half he played for this team. There's something they could build off of for sure. The question is just, would they be able to, and how far would that be able to go for them? It's seemingly like they're about a 500 team at home, but a terrible team on the road, and you just can find themselves in a pretty weird spot all around because of that. Paulo Tagovailoa played better in this last week, especially in the second half of the game when he actually was the starter for the second half. But again, it's inconsistency abundant with Houston. They need to figure out something here soon because their season is going to be starting to slip away. They have back-to-back games against Columbus coming up, so there's a chance there for them to turn the tide on the season. But you really don't know with this team. It's so many red flags, so many inconsistencies. It is just a mystery on what you're going to get each and any given week. So we shall see with Houston going forward, and they come in at number 7. Number 6 is the Louisville Kings, and they stuck with Jason Bean for a full month of the season. They got their first win last week against Houston. But even with all of that, Chandler Rogers is going to be the starter going forward in Louisville, because Jason Bean has been traded to the DC Defenders for some reason. And I get that Jason Bean has not been playing great this season. He's sitting at roughly 50% completion on the year, so definitely not great. But he just led you to your first win of the season in overtime, and all you get back is a guaranteed backup in Mike DeLeo from DC. It's a bit of a weird trade to make, especially when Jason Bean could be a pretty solid backup option due to his mobility and his athleticism to begin with. They also have released Benny Snell after a very tough performance in the win and a pretty rough start to the season as a whole, but I don't fully blame him. I just more so blame this Louisville team as a whole because their ground game has been atrocious this season. Louisville has underperformed as a team this season, and with that first win last week, maybe they could build off of something and turn the tide on the year. But we shall see. Time will tell on the matter. But it's all going to have to start with getting the ground game into a working order if they are going to be taken seriously for the rest of this season. But with how things are shaking up in Louisville, with the quarterback change, the weird trades, the releasing of Benny Snell, James Robinson going to be the bell cow pack going forward, and I do like that. We'll see how they look next week, but yeah, Louisville comes in at number 7. Number 5 is the Columbus Aviators. That was a great win for the Aviators. They really surprised me over the past 2 weeks with how well they have played against the Dallas Renegades offense, simply by just locking down Tyler Vaughns. It did show a weakness into that Dallas team that I feel like some teams in the future are going to be able to capitalize on. They also were seemingly the first team to get some pressure onto Austin Reed, and it led to his 2 worst games of the season the past 2 weeks, so definitely something to keep an eye on there in terms of the Dallas offense. But to me, the real star of this game against Dallas last week was that running offense. They set a UFL record for rushing attempts in a single game at about 47 or 48, get the exact number, and it's all capitalized off of the drive that was at the end of the third quarter and the beginning of the fourth quarter. That was 18 plays, lasted 10 plus minutes, went 97 yards on 17 run plays to make it a 14-point game in the fourth and leave Dallas with very little time in this one. That was an absolute beauty of a drive. I loved watching it. It was a perfect drive to me for what this Columbus team could be. Every back was involved. Saquandre White, John Lovett, Toa Tawa got in the end zone at the end of it. All around, it was a great drive and a great way to capitalize a very impressive win. And they have a pretty nice stretch coming up as well in Columbus. They definitely have a chance to get back into this playoff race if they play their cards right. Of the teams in this back half of the season that are currently 1-3, they're the one that I could definitely expect to keep things competitive late into the season and make the final few weeks of the year something worth watching. Because as it currently sits, we seemingly have our playoff teams in order in terms of just the top 4 teams in the league, but we shall see because Columbus can make things interesting. Number 4 is the St. Louis Battlehawks. And to build off of what was just said, we shouldn't really be a month into the season and seemingly have our 4 playoff teams already figured out, because that's what it kind of feels like, at least to me to some degree. Even with the loss to DC last week, St. Louis still looked pretty damn good. They kept things competitive towards the end. They had a chance to win late with Harrison Frost, and yes, he did not look good through the first half and really the first 3 quarters. He still had a good solid fourth quarter that got them back into this game. Jarvion Howard as well had a big time carry in this one. Really the first time that St. Louis ground game has had a carry like that to build off of. So I'm excited to see how they build off of it and go and use it going forward, because this is a ground game that definitely has the talent on that side from last year as well to be able to be a solid ground game. Nothing fantastic, but still one you can utilize in games. The defense continues to be inconsistent, the offense as well at times, but the one consistent piece of the offense is Hakeem Butler. He had another fantastic showing in this one, continues to be a stud. He had another really solid showing in this game, some incredible catches, a 75-yard receiver screen touchdown that he had. All around, Hakeem Butler is the dude in St. Louis, and they need to be able to capitalize off him more and get him the ball more than they have. St. Louis did struggle a bit against Jordan Ta'amu, unlike the last meeting in St. Louis, but it is still a solid loss for St. Louis and one that you can definitely build off of, only losing to the defending champs by 1 score. So it's definitely something that, although it's a loss, I'm willing to give them a moral victory with them being at 2-2 through the first month of the season and feeling pretty well about that. Number 3 is the Dallas Renegades, and some cracks are starting to show after their first road game of the season and their first loss of the season. To boot with all of that, they only have one more game at Toyota Field to play, and that is next week in week 5, because their 5th home game of the season was relocated to a stadium about 3 hours south of Toyota Stadium. So that'll be something interesting to see. The first road game of the year did not go great against Columbus. They were shut down the entire second half. They looked pretty rough in that game. But at the end of the day, they have given themselves some leeway, being 3-0, entering this one now 3-1, having won those 3 home games to begin the year. It gives them a bit of leverage to take the rest of the way, because they don't really need to win all of their road games or a good handful of the road games. If they win 1 or 2, I think they'll be fine going forward. But they definitely need to be a better team on the road and be a more complete team if they're going to truly make a splash this year. That final stretch of the season they have in store for them is going to be tough with the amount of road games they play, so it's going to be a good test. And the cracks that started to show things to Columbus this week is that Tyler Vaughns, when he's not going, this offense as a whole kind of struggles to get going. And when there's pressure on Austin Reed, some things can start to struggle as well. So they need to get more consistent with everything else. Read a little bit better under pressure, I would say, but for the most part, he's still playing really damn well. He made some insane throws last week against Columbus to the point where I think he can hone in against the under pressure stuff and then and once that happens, the entire receiver core will be able to get going pretty well, and not just Tyler Vaughn's needing to be the main receiver. Still a pretty rough game. The defense got extremely banged up in this one as well, to the point where Columbus was just able to run it down their throats to be able to seal the game. Because again, that was a beautiful drive by Columbus at the start of the fourth quarter. But with all that, Dallas comes in at number 3. Number 2 is the Orlando Storm. They got the first shutout of the season and really the first shutout of UFL history. So a really damn good game all around from Orlando. It wasn't the prettiest of games, but it was still impressive to go into enemy territory in a very packed out protective stadium and get a very nice win in Birmingham. They did make a trade after the game. Dorian Thompson-Robinson now in Birmingham, Matt Corral now arriving in Orlando, and I do expect Corral to just be a backup to Jack Plummer, and a pretty damn good backup as well as that. This is kind of a similar role to what Corral was in for years past in Birmingham, between him and like a Jamar Smith or an Adrian Martinez. He definitely does feel like he thrives in a 2 QB type of system. So I feel like that can go pretty well in Orlando. As for DTR, I am very happy that he's going to have a chance to start in Birmingham. I'm excited to see what he can do in Birmingham. But this is all about Orlando right now. And Anthony Beck is going to have some pretty fun packages to be able to work in both of the quarterbacks and their skill sets. So I'm excited to see what they can do going forward. But all of this continues to show just how weird of a season it was and where the future lies for this Orlando team. Anthony Beck at 4-0 through the first month is something I definitely did not expect. This Orlando team has been playing pretty damn well. It's some pretty solid and sound football, even if it isn't the prettiest. They're still stacking wins on top of each other and going to be a real threat going forward, because it's not very easy to get to 4-0 on a year when, again, the play isn't as exactly what you want it to be, but there's just plain sound football. So all around, I do like Orlando, and they come in at number 2. Number 1 is the DC Defenders. Very nice win against St. Louis last week. They got their get back after the tough week 1 loss, and they're continuing to get better and better as both a team and as a roster as well. For as rough as Jason Bean has been playing this year, him being added to that DC quarterback room is going to help him out dramatically. Both because now he has Jordan Ta'amu as a mentor and someone to learn from, and also because this DC offense typically is a very QB-friendly offense. They want to run the ball a lot, give Deion Jackson and Abram Smith the carries. When they do execute the pass, you really have 3 options to go for, mainly Cornell Powell. This is a DC offense that is very QB-friendly and can definitely help out Jason Bean. With that also being said, Jason Bean's arrival is going to be able to add another facet to this DC offense, because, at least to me, he has better mobility than Jordan Ta'amu, plus also on the younger side, you're going to want him to be using his legs a bit more than Ta'amu, because you want Ta'amu to be healthy. I would not be surprised if we see some packages to this DC offense that utilizes that, and just as a whole gets the ground game more involved through Jason Bean and the quarterback legs. At the end of the day, DC has fully shaken off the tough loss in week 1, and through the end of the first month, they're in a very good spot at 3-1 and feeling really damn good, because they've had dominant wins over the past 3 weeks, and this one against St. Louis, although not as dominant, it is still a really damn good win and a statement win on top of that. They're going to have some fun games down the stretch, and I'm very excited to see what DC looks like going forward as a whole, especially with this Jason Bean acquisition. So there you have it. Quick little rundown. Birmingham Stallions are at 8, Houston Gamblers are at 7, Louisville Kings at 6, Columbus Aviators at 5, St. Louis Battlehawks at 4, the Dallas Renegades at 3, Orlando Storm at 2, and the DC Defenders round things out on number 1. Appreciate everyone tuning in. I'll see you all next time. Have yourselves a damn good one. Peace.